So, yeah, that was a busy summer.
Summer. Whew.
Busy
Summer.
summer. That, that was just every year. I mean, you do it every year and you know what to expect, but it's still
hits you like a ton of bricks, doesn't it? So we're sitting here with a backlog as far as the eye can see, and a nice winter ahead of us. September's that turning point where you're like, right, it starts winding down.
It's now editing season.
Are you ready?
I'm tired. Baby's obviously here, and everything that goes along with that. But yeah, we're making progress. We're editing away. We're getting galleries out. Keeping everybody up to date. Obviously on my stories as to where the editing queue is and stuff. So yeah, we're making progress. We're making progress, and like we made it through, and that's the main thing. So
well done, folks. We did it. Hopefully your summer went without a hitch. And you can now just look forward to this next part of our year, which is that editing and preparing for what can be for me last year, September was the beginning of probably the toughest period in my business that I had. Yeah, from September to December last year, I made 0 bookings.
Right, yeah,
that was a.
So what was that period?
That was September to December 2023.
Wow.
I made 0 bookings in the business. I went from growing and growing and growing to suddenly going, I need to do something. My back was against the wall, which, funnily enough, is the topic of this week's episode. This is That One Video Podcast. I'm Jase.
I'm Danny.
Let's get into it.
So no bookings
It
between
was
September and December. Now, I'm not going to lie. I think for most people, if they're used to, booking a certain number per month, which I'm sure at that point you would have been used to, that's quite...
I was baffled because, I hadn't really changed that much with the business and what I was doing. At the start of that year, from like January to July, I was generating like 20 to 30 leads every single month.
Yeah.
That hasn't ever changed since then. So I am now sort of between like 5 and 8 leads maximum per month. But the booking story has changed obviously since then, because obviously I'm still in business. So
Still here.
still here. But I was so confused because I was talking to you and obviously things were still going good for you. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, I haven't changed anything. Although I had when I really looked into it, a lot had changed over from 2021 to 2022. And then in 2023, a lot had changed because I had been chasing something that I don't think I belonged in. Like, I was trying to go for that, I'm just going to keep increasing things and just kind of see where I can push this business to. But that wasn't the essence of what my business is about. It wasn't serving the right people once I was going there. So I had to take a long time just to kind of reflect on everything that was happening in my business and do something about it, which thankfully in January I did. And I will talk about what I did to kind of change my fortune from that, because obviously if I'd carried on down that path, I'd be sitting here in a very different position.
But I think that point there about recognizing that either something has changed or hasn't changed, and therefore a change needs to happen. On the back of obviously going through that period of 3 months without a booking, I think being able to go, step back from it and look at it pragmatically and go, okay, right, this can't go on. So I'm going to have to do something differently, because if I just let things continue the way that it's going, it's not going to work.
And of course, you can think of the solutions like, so what do you do here? Is it the price that's the problem? Is it the product that's the problem? Is it the communication that's the problem? And I looked at everything, and I didn't make any drastic changes. When I look at what I was doing then, what I was selling for then, and what I'm selling for now, there's really not that much difference in terms of what I'm still able charging. In fact, like it's a record breaking year for me. Like it's the most that I've ever done. So there clearly was something wrong, something missing that wasn't connecting what I can offer to the people that I wanted to serve. So there definitely was something missing there. But before we get into that, like talk about is there like what's your experience with this? Like, can you elaborate?
So I mean, generally, I've never had an issue with like leads coming in as such. It's always been, I've always had a healthy amount per month of like leads coming in, somewhere between kind of like 30 to 40 leads. What I guess I have started to notice, just as I've kind of crept my price point up naturally, what would happen is that the amount of bookings has then went down, because obviously higher price point, you're going to kind of price yourself out the majority of the market. I think I went through a period recently where the bookings definitely had dropped below anything what I was used to. So I've kind of went through a similar kind of process of going, okay, what do I need to change here? Kind of similar to what you've done. I've kind of just like almost like changed the way that the packages are kind of like tiered, so that the amount, I guess, that like I'm bringing in doesn't really change as such. The amount of work for the amount that I'm charging does kind of is brought down, but because of that, if I was to do the same kind of work, the price doesn't really change, if that makes any sense whatsoever. That was quite a convoluted way to say, but essentially what I've done is the same, is kind of just look at my business and go, okay, things are maybe, the booking rate isn't quite what it was, so let's look and see what needs to change, and things are back to normal since doing so. And again, I think that's the key, just to not just sit idle and just wait for things to change.
I mean, I should have done the research before, but what's that saying that when you do nothing and expect the same
definition
results?
of insanity is, yeah.
So you're sitting there and you're just waiting for it to change. You're insane. Like I was for 3 months. I was insane until I had a knock in the head and I thought, right, okay, let's look at what my business is there, because I know I've got a decent product and I know people would benefit from it. So we just need to connect the dots and figure out what is going on.
But it's hard though, isn't it, when you're in the thick of it, because there is so many hats that we need to wear as business owners, and especially in this industry, because you need to be, you're the marketer, you're the person going out shooting, you're the editor, you're like the accountant as such. There's so many different things and so many plates that you need to spin, and it can be quite hard when things just do suddenly just fall off a cliff. Yeah,
especially at this time of year when you do have that massive backlog to edit. Like the reason I didn't really do anything about it last September to December is because I had a mountain to deliver before Christmas. Like we always put that kind of false deadline of Christmas. We really want people to have it. So I had a mountain to climb last year with that. And of course, that's where all of my attention went. Obviously, the weddings did decrease with the amount I was doing. But I was just in the thick of editing, and I really just took my foot off the gas in terms of, right, just thinking the bookings will come again, right? But 3 months without it was alarm bells for me. And I know that there's a lot of people that are looking at their bookings this year, looking at their bookings next year, and thinking that it's a bit quiet. We're still going through this whole unpredictability of booking patterns that I think people over the last 10 years were probably used to, where they get booked a year or two in advance. And now I feel that people are booking later. I know for myself that's definitely true for me. Maybe not so much for yourself, because you do tend to have more bookings people in the future. But I do think that the majority of people do book later now.
Yeah, I mean, from speaking to other people, I mean, in my scenario, probably not so much. I don't get so many like last minute bookings. Get a couple, but not that many. Generally, mine are booked out for the next year or the year after. But I think generally from speaking to people, that seems to be the case, that they're getting a lot more last minute bookings.
And when we're talking last minute, we're talking about the same year, like not like
or within
next
6
week.
months or whatever,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I guess there's a few reasons that could be happening. One, there's what is it called, the COVID hangover kind of, or the COVID gap. The COVID gap, yeah. So because of COVID, there was less new relationships made during that period when everybody was obviously in lockdown. Therefore, less relationships made, less weddings potentially.
And that's absolutely a real thing. If you think of any inquiry that you get just now, and like if you ever ask them what their story is, people always say, "Oh yeah, we met in 2018, we met in 2019." I never get anyone who says, "Oh, we met in 2020." I never met in 2020, so I have a feeling that this year
I met her in the vaccination queue.
Met them on Xbox Live playing Call of Duty, and it just worked out. No, that's not happening. But 2025, I think, will still be kind of lingering from that. And then I think from 2026 to 2027, we're going to have couples who met in 21, 22, and it's going to start rising again. And then that's my thought of what's going to happen. So it could be a quieter year next year.
So there's that. There's also the fact that because of COVID, new people came onto the scene. So in terms of like videographers, myself included, who, and some of these people that are new, even in the last couple of years, like the quality of work that they are able to produce is of a really, really high standard, especially for someone just entering the market, and a lot of that is also to do with the abundance of education that's out there, and and stuff like that. So that the industry, I would say, the caliber has increased quite significantly in terms of like the quality of films that are out there.
I don't think that's the be all and end all though. Like I think quality.
No, I'm just saying that as a whole, so now there's more competition.
It definitely, yeah.
I think like now there's more, and there's as we all know, there's still a plethora of weddings out there that happen, and especially ones that happen without a videographer. But I would say that as a whole, the industry has had a step up in terms of like quality, just because of all these new people that have entered the market.
And I think
so. There's more choice for consumers.
Well, that's it. I think my opinion isn't necessarily that you know because there's more talented people coming in that shouldn't make a difference, because I think we're all on the level playing field when it comes to marketing. No one who is hiring a videographer really, not no one, but the majority of people don't necessarily understand the quality difference, but they do understand your brand and your marketing and your voice and what you can do as someone who could be trustworthy on their wedding day. I think it's still a level playing field, because I know there's different levels of quality that get booked out.
By quality, though, I'm not just talking about quality of films. I'm kind of talking about that generalization of quality of just how, like you said, how they're presented. Because you could have people that maybe have, if you've been doing this maybe for like 10 years or whatever, and you maybe got the same brand that you started 10 years ago, then that. If you've got a plethora of people that have came in with like fresh branding and all that, and are maybe like starting to follow like trends and stuff like that, like on Instagram when it comes to like video, then there's a potential that they will pop more than.
I think their voice is louder than your voice if you're doing it, and that's when it really comes to. If you imagine a room full of people, let's say there's like 200 people in there, and then one person gets handed a megaphone. Your eyes are going to be shifted to that person with a megaphone because their voice is louder, and that's where the attention's going. And that's what's happening. When all these new people are coming in, there's voices taking clusters of people away from you because they're being louder. And that's happening more and more. There's way more competition for that. Yeah. So with that, plus the fact you've got a new addition to the industry and content creators, which is absolutely an alternative option for couples if they want to go down that route, if the message is communicated by a content creator that they can offer what you can offer.
Yeah, because if you think about the fact that like prior to content creators going, if you had somebody that was on a budget, they would maybe go with maybe like a a videographer that was more in line with that budget, because that was the only option. Whereas now they've maybe got, okay, we could do that, or we could get a content creator and kind of get, bits still recorded. It's maybe not like a full film, but it's, it'll do.
Yeah.
Kind of thing,
The fact that anyone that is a part of any sort of bridal Facebook group will know that the most common question these days is, should I get a content creator or a videographer, or what's the difference between a content creator and a videographer? If couples don't know the difference now, they never will. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. It's like, yes, we can see clear as day what the benefit is, and we can try our best to educate, but the fact that the question's being asked in the first place means that
they don't understand
that they actually could just go down with that as an alternative option, because it's going to save them a lot of money.
Yeah, so although it is a different product.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. And content creators will also defend that. They understand that it's a different product, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
So obviously that's going to eat into things as well. I don't think it's something necessarily to be completely worried with, but it's just something that you need to make sure that you are talking about what you can offer, showing what you can offer.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's about like showing couples through your marketing, Instagram or whatever, why they should book a wedding videographer or why they should book you, and
not just meeting them at sort of price point where a lot of people will go towards, because I think content creators this much, videographers this much. Like it's a lot more work for us to do what we do, so we can't really match them at price point. And I just think.
Overall, it's not even comparable on the work front. No,
not at all. So it comes down to a bunch of things, like the way you communicate online and directly to your couples, the way obviously that your products are priced, and the products that you offer as well. Not terms of like, I offer this good film. It's the packages. The packages need to make sense to people. I think that we can sometimes overwhelm people with options and when there's a comparable of, if I do a 5-minute film, you do a 7-minute film. Oh, what's it? A 7-minute film sounds better than a 5-minute film if they're the same price. But what's the difference? How are you communicating what goes into that? So there's so many factors here.
So yeah, so there are some of the things, I guess, that could have affected the amount of maybe like inquiries and then subsequently the bookings that you would be getting. But I think one of the what you should do, and it's obviously what Jason and I have done, we've started to see a bit of a change ourselves, is to start taking action. So be that having a real in-depth look at, the look at maybe like the competitors in your area that are maybe like appear to be doing well, looking at maybe what they are producing and kind of, I guess, in a way, kind of like comparing, okay, where is that in relation to what I am delivering at the minute? Does something need to change? And by that, I mean, there could be, is the music licensing that I am using, in terms of like the music that I'm using, is that maybe not what the majority of the market are now using? Or are they using something different? Is there maybe like common themes or trends that these people or these companies are using that maybe I don't have, that are popular just now? Obviously, like there's certain things, and by that I'm not saying go into TikTok and start following all the trends. I'm just saying start to look at maybe like indicators as to like what are common themes that these people are maybe doing, and what are they doing well, and how can I maybe start to like replicate that within my business. That also comes down to like marketing as well. What are these companies doing in terms of marketing? How are they marketing themselves? Because it's obviously working.
Mm-hmm. I think a really brief overview of good quality marketing is, what value are you providing people today? If you're just showing like what your work is, that's not necessarily valuable to someone. It would be valuable to someone who's necessarily already looking for a videographer, but you can reach a wider audience if you're educating, inspiring, or entertaining. Like, we all have content that is of a funny speech. We all have videoed things, like unique ideas at weddings that you can inspire other couples to have at their wedding. We've got ideas that we can give people. It's what value are you bringing today? And that's a really brief overview of what you could be doing to integrate into the messages you're sending out to the world. You could be an expert in weddings, and if you're an expert in weddings, people trust you. And I think that's a great way to convert.
Yeah. I guess another thing to look at, and obviously it's something that we've talked about before in the pod, but like your branding, and that comes down to obviously like the tone of voice that you're using, the website and your Instagram. You know, if you don't have, for instance, the budget just now because maybe your back is against the wall and you're not getting the funds coming in, an easy change that you can make and a free change is how your Instagram is looking. So that's like your grid, you know, those, I would say that I think quite a lot of folks say those like first 9 or 12 posts are really, really important because people generally won't scroll past that. So making sure that all that stuff is really, really high quality. The thumbnails look good as well, you know. Just having maybe like random pictures or like black points on the grid does not look good, and it doesn't look tidy. So having nice, take stills from the film, a nice still, or use the scroll feature, which can be a little bit annoying.
I mean, if that's your aesthetic, for sure, because yours is way nicer than mine. But
you don't have black bits on there.
I don't have black bits, but obviously I don't have I would say that my images are not necessarily of higher quality. They are of messy moments at the wedding sometimes, or smile. I have.
But it's
consistent.
It's consistent with probably what's going to be in the film or something.
Yeah, it's consistent criteria to what I want. It's not just the first image.
Yeah.
Like I'm specific about what thumbnail does go up, but it's not necessarily like something that looks clean. It's with my criteria, it's like someone smiling, laughing, or falling over.
And what I mean by that, though, is that it's inviting to go and click on it and look at it rather than just having like a black screen, or maybe like having when it cuts off people, like so you've got half a face or something like that.
Yeah.
Like
there's thought behind it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly. So that stuff you want to tidy it up and make it somewhat tidy, so that people go, wonder what that is, and click on it, rather than go, this is a black screen. Not going to click on that because don't know what I'm going to see.
And also, I could be doing more with highlights on Instagram as well, but the ones I have there kind of introduce people to a bit of me. I've got some behind the scenes. I've got a couple of funny stories that I've done where I'm trying to do like home DIY, which has nothing to do with weddings, but it gives a bit of personality into it. And then a work trip that I had to America as well is in there. I'm going to be doing some more highlights as the time goes on, but they're a really powerful way, because if anyone's really hungry for like a wedding videographer content, they're really in the mood to look for someone, they're going to be invited to look at those as well. So it's definitely something to consider putting some effort into as well.
Yeah, but whatever your plan of action to go around, and that's key, is you need to make a plan of action, plan of attack as to, okay, right, what do we change here? If that is to go and overhaul the Instagram and tidy it up and make it look nice and and pretty and stuff, then really going for it, making sure that you've got the best of the best stuff on there. Or if you want to go down the funny moments like Jason does, then just get loads of them on there and have a bit of a kind of plan of attack okay, I'm going to sit down and for the next month I'm going to upload like 2 a week or whatever, or or 1 a week or whatever you want to do, whether you want to go down the funny ones or create maybe like funny daft reels or whatever, like Andrew Cahill has done, and he saw like a massive growth in terms of like following and from like inquiries, which is interesting considering that the majority of stuff is more aimed at like other industry professionals rather than actual couples. But again, that's just another case of somebody that's I think he talked about it in that other podcast. He was like, I need to do something here, and he's done it, and look where it's got him. So it's just it's a testament to, like, if you decide to take action, good things will come.
I think there's clearly a direct correlation to how busy you are on social media to the amount of queries you receive. I think it's a no-brainer that if your content is getting seen by people who happen to be looking for someone, there's a high chance, if that connects with them, that they're going to inquire. And I know from the time when I posted every single day in 1 month in January, I had like a 600% increase in leads, which makes you think, why wouldn't I do it all the time? It's obviously hard work to do it all the time. It was a specific strategy that I wanted to do to just regenerate interest, and it worked.
But that's just not for couples, remember. And this is the thing to remember, because if you're constantly posting, good stuff, your photographer friends will see it. And then you go back to being front of mind, because they're like, their couple say, oh, I'm needing a wedding video. And they're like, Ah, yeah.
That's
Jason
it.
posted that hilarious reel. Jason, he's a good videographer. I'll recommend him. So it doesn't just go, and again, we know that referrals from photographers are also like a really, really good source of leads for all of us. So that, again, that's
Yeah.
something to bear in mind. And also, speaking to your photographer friends and reminding them and kind of saying, you got any couples that don't have any videographers, you could even go in with like an offer or whatever if you wanted to, for any couples that they have that don't have one.
I remember at Christmas realizing the fact that it'd been super quiet and I really didn't know, I hadn't changed anything. And I just thought, right, something needs to happen here. So I used that period to just stop editing once Christmas is over, to just dedicate a week on researching, understanding what the whole journey was for someone inquiring with me. And that's where I kind of made the idea that, okay, maybe things are just a little bit too complicated. Maybe there's too many things in my packages, and maybe people are just getting overwhelmed with choice and the way that I was communicating with people if they inquired. So for me, it was about overhauling my inquiry process. I simplified it. I gave them value off the immediately, providing a little bit of documentation through the workflows. And then completely stripped back my packages. So removed all my add-ons and stuff like that and just made it simple for people. Nice, clear, round numbers, nice, simple products. And magic. It just changed things. The communication was on point. The branded PDF that I created was on point. That was it for me. It's definitely a lot of overhaul, but I realized there was a load missing from my inquiry journey that I knew would add value, but I just never did it because I never needed to. And that was the transformation that I saw. And couple that with my aggressive strategy on social media in January, it just really kickstarted things for me. So simplifying the products, basically I was doing it for the same value, but all my products before had all my add-ons in already. I just took all of them out and just simplified it. And it's still something that people can add on. And I still charge the same. I just realized people didn't need all of those things.
Yeah.
Sometimes having too much in something can just be too much for people to understand. So that was really, my advice for you is if you're going through something like this, have a look at your packages and maybe there's just too much in there. Maybe it just needs to be a nice, simple concept for people to understand, and it'll connect more with them.
Yeah. I mean, simplicity a lot of the time is key, isn't it? As soon as you start to overcomplicate things, they'll just get too much.
Yeah.
Just go to somebody else.
And another thing I did as well, because I knew that I was quieter in certain times of the year than I was in summer. Like I remember looking at my calendar and I've got all my leads still in my calendar. So I can see there's how many dates. Like for example, in April and October, I saw that I had 20 inquiries on different days and only one booking for each of them. And I was thinking, God, that's so much that I'm missing out on. And I saw the trend. I looked for the past 3 years and it was the same every single time. And I know that a lot of venues do sort of like discounted pricing like in winter. And I just thought, well, I'll experiment with this and just offer a different set of packages for people in quieter months just to kind of see how it goes at a way that I can still be comfortable with my profit margin based on what I make in summer. And the success of that has been unbelievable. Like I don't advertise that it's winter packages. They basically just get the same PDF, but with different pricing as people in the summer get. And the conversion on that has been unbelievable. It now means that I don't have any months that I would deem quiet. There's always enough work to keep me going through. And it meant that I've managed to increase the complete turnover of my business to a point where I don't to beyond what I expected. And it's all because I'm now able to work in months that I wasn't competing in before. Mm-hmm. So that was another thing that I did. And I think it was, I mean, it's been a stroke of genius for me. I didn't think it would be as successful as it is, but that really worked for me. So with those two changes, I'm fairly comfortable that until I go through another month without any bookings, that I should be good with that for a while.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, it's it's a much better, like, I guess, approach to doing something like that by like looking at it and going, okay, you know, what can I change? What can I move about? For instance, you were talking about like all the add-ons and stuff like that. What can I remove so that, you know, I'm not having to do the same amount of work for like less money, but like, how can I, you know, make it so that I'll maybe do less work, make less money, but you know, then you've got the time, for instance, to do more, because having obviously all those other add-ons would have added so much editing time into your packages.
But granted, obviously, I had put in what those add-ons would cost to edit and stuff. It's just so my packages, my pricing was really, really high. I mean, we were talking at some point, like I was almost charging like $5,000 for some of these because they had all the add-ons.
Mm-hmm.
But if I just took out all the add-ons, it becomes more affordable.
Yeah.
And then people can still take them on because my upselling has dramatically increased as well, because it's way more appealing to buy something once the wedding's done, because before the wedding, people don't know what to expect. People have a lot of dread before weddings until it happens, and then they love it and they want more.
Yeah.
So upselling after the wedding is super profitable for people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that the add-ons after have been great for me.
I guess another thing that people will often turn to when the, you know, bookings do dry up is, you know, completely just slash pricing for like all of their bookings, all of their packages.
Yeah, I think when I see a discount going public, the way, if I was walking at a shop and I saw a TV had like 40% off or something, I can see the immediate value because I understand already what a TV is going to bring to me. But when it comes to a service at a wedding, like I'm not necessarily looking for someone that's got a deal. I'm looking for someone that I trust,
yeah.
and that is creating something that I would be excited to have, rather than a deal. I don't think that there's enough education before someone goes to look for a videographer to understand what benefit 40% off is actually doing. What that says to me is that, I mean, what that says is that they need the work.
Mm-hmm.
And that might not necessarily be the message you want to put across to someone that you're trying to win trust over.
Yeah.
And that might not be welcome to all ears, but that's what I hear.
Mm-hmm. But I think that's, I guess, whenever there's a deal on for something, it generally means, you know, we've got too much stock or whatever we're trying to get rid of.
And our stock is dates.
Yeah. So I think it's something you probably listen. I mean, you know, if you've got to pay the bills at the end of the day, and it's hard when things are maybe not going that way. But I think looking at, and just cutting the prices and just you know we're having a flash sale or whatever is not fixing the actual issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I think the expectation is that when you say, okay, my prices have gone down this much, is that there's going to be a flood of people going, oh yeah, great, I've been waiting for that. But that's not the case. People are always looking for someone. They're not just hanging around to find the best price. They're looking for someone that they want value with. So if you advertise that you're cutting your prices, yes, you might get one or two people. But if you do it privately, then you're still getting the opportunity to express what value you're offering to people at a price that they can then consider.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think if it was all down to price, then
the cheapest would get booked every single time.
Exactly. And that's not the case. In fact, you know, in a lot of cases, it's the opposite.
Yeah. It might seem baffling if you're sitting at a lower price rate and someone is much more expensive and booking out. It's because of the branding, the communication.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the quality of film. It's because your films might be better than theirs. It might be. It's about everything else that goes in beforehand, because price is not the deciding factor in most cases.
No. And it's like, I think I've said it before, like generally it's like an emotive decision, isn't it? It's not so much like a rational decision. Because a lot of the time, you know, people are like, you know, it doesn't really matter how much it costs, we want to book you or whatever, you know. And that kind of says a lot. Because it's a personal thing, and a lot of it's to do with, you know, the brand, the personality, and obviously the quality of work that is put out there. But it's probably the most important is your presence and your branding. Obviously, the work needs to be a certain quality, of course, but if you can get the branding right and everything else in the marketing, that's way more powerful than the actual quality of work that you put out. So yeah, I would say whilst it can be tempting just to go to straight up, or having like an 80% off or whatever, maybe just consider that there's other things that you can do before that to try and fix the problem, because it's kind of like just putting a plaster over like a wound that is bleeding heavily, and it's there's other things that you can do to try and to put a proper bandage on things.
I mean, the reason that I did the winter discount, the private winter discount essentially, is because I had changed a few things and noticed that I was still getting a lot of inquiries for these dates and nothing was converting. So I experimented with a price that was comfortable for me, and it worked better. Now I'll increase that as and when I need to. So cutting costs, it can work, because if you're it can work, but it's not the only solution. It's not the first solution.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
the point.
But and also and like you said, the difference there is it's maybe not like a public kind of like discount kind of thing that makes it look as if you're
because if I shout that, then people I think it's also doing damage to people who have booked you. Granted, I get it. Brands do it all the time. They do flash sales and stuff, but I feel like advertising discounts and stuff. I can't see how it's going to draw people in. Because people who are looking for services for their wedding aren't consumers looking to buy stuff for their house.
Yeah,
it's not something that it's a one day thing. It's not something that they can add into their life whenever they want.
Yeah, your best port of call is just continually make sure that you've got like a content stream that's constantly going out, and you're getting in front of these people's eyeballs to the point where they're like, we want that person to film our wedding. Yeah. And that's way more powerful than putting on like any kind of offer will ever be.
100%.
Because they will be able to see themselves in the content that you're putting out, and they'll go, and showing a variety of venues and couples and and wedding vibes is also important as well, just to show that people can say, yeah, I can see myself, I can see me or us as that couple there.
I'm excited to have this person come to my wedding.
Yeah. So if you are out there, certainly, and you are struggling a little bit, you can also, like, I think the videographer community certainly in Scotland is very helpful and is very open, so feel free to reach out to your friends. There's like nothing wrong with asking for a little bit of help, especially when it comes to this. We've all got families and houses and cars and mortgages and stuff like that. So and I know obviously with Jason and I, we're more than happy to kind of sit and chat through some things and come up with a plan of attack if you are struggling and would want that support.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. You couldn't have said it any better, really. It's just like, yep. Great. So on that note, we're going to wrap this week up. Thank you for listening to That Wedding Videographer podcast. I've been Jace.
I've been Danny.
See you next week.
See you later.